Okay, today I've been watching, it was a movie, well, it's a TV series about Jackie Kennedy, well, Bouvier Kennedy Onassis, a woman named Jackie. The book was in '89, the movie or made for TV series, 1991. I mean, it starts with her birth, her going to, I guess she found Porter's school to snobby and went to, I think it was Farmington, or I'm not familiar with Farmington, but it's the same group of girls' schools as Foxcroft. Madeira is in there. You know, all of these prep schools, these East Coast prep schools, whether it be the girls' schools, the boys' schools. My brother went to Woodbury Forest in Virginia, as did Anne Beatrix Keller's son. And Anne Beatrix Keller is a carbon copy of my mother. So it just goes to show you how these role models of control freak mothers on the left and the right, because I mean Anne Beatrix is you know, liberal, but same, you know, same backstabby bitch. I mean, I can't wait to get her into the courts, showing me how she's had it all in her lifetime, and psychological testing on her children, and her husband, Warner Keller, at the IMF. So, you know, this whole psychological testing of women in family courts so that they have to prove that they're good mothers, because it's just assumed that they're social climbing, empty-headed trophy wives like Jackie Kennedy. And you know, all my former classmates of Foxcroft and really all of the ruling elite women I know of the upper crust, or the nouveau riche that I know, which, you know, permeates the Federation of American Women's Clubs overseas, IMF Family Association, World Bank Family Network, UN LESA, I mean, you know, all these expat wives clubs. That's why I came up with the idea for global expats. And unfortunately, the money-making portion, which was the website that I started back in, well, the prototype was 2006, 2007. That was a whole other, you know, I know my ex-husband now was in cahoots with my web designer to sabotage the whole thing. That also is going to have to get in court. That was the Florida web designers. I mean, it's just, I see this again and again and again with the Kennedy family. I went into this with, after Bobby died, with Ethel. But Jackie is just, you know, the other side of the coin of the type of control freak women who have risen to power, whether it be amongst the liberals or the conservatives in Europe or the United States. In fact, it's funny because, well, Jackie O, I mean, my mother always, there's one thing, you'll never see me teasing my hair. Even though I always do everything possible to get volume. You men won't understand, but all the ladies out there will understand. Oh my God, my mother teased my hair. It was exactly like Jackie O. They were bringing that out, and Jackie O was, her mother was scandalized by the booth. Well, I was scandalized by the booth. I mean, 80 years later, well, not maybe quite. But for different reasons, I found it antiquated. Whereas Jackie's mother found it scandalously liberal. See how women's fashions, but you know, all about appearances and being very ladylike. And then Ethel is the flip side. She's the tomboy, and as are the other Eunice, I think, is the same. The Kennedy sisters, and this is Rose and Joe's daughters, the sisters of JFK, Bobby, and Teddy. But so my mom's the Jackie Kennedy, although she's all right. See, the people within the alt-right and the alt-left, there's no political conviction. It's just who your friends are and which side you can get in bed with to grapple up the ladder of success and to get into power. I mean, you see this really with the Kennedy family. And this is where I want to get into the death of the liberal class. And you know, if you want to pinpoint, at least into what I've looked at, you know, the Kennedy family with JFK, Bobby, and their assassinations, this is really when you had the death of the liberal class, because that really removed the only, because Joe Kennedy, father, son of PJ Kennedy, who was the immigrant from Ireland who got into the liquor business, the tavern business, and politics, but he had gotten elected position someplace, but he realized quickly that it's behind the scenes where you make the real changes. So this is, you know, Joseph, he was the heir apparent. This is the grandson of PJ. And I mean, he was a Hitler supporter and, you know, extermination of the undesirables. Well, this comes into question now. Who are undesirables? Are drug addicts? Well, upper class, lower class, only lower class. I don't understand why. So, you know, JFK and Bobby were, how shall I say, you know, Bobby had thought about being, I think, a journalist. I think he was much more reflective, as well as Bobby. These guys were a threat to the rise of the Fourth Reich, particularly Bobby with the RICO and going after organized crime in the country, because this did open a Pandora box. Of course, if Bobby had been successful, you know, the best tactic of the Sicilian mafia and there's the Irish mafia, but all of these immigrant mafias, because with that's the Godfather with Mario Puzo, and I have to agree with him. One of the points he makes in the book, or with the book, is these guys are not playing any other game than what the American government is doing. It's like, okay, well, yeah, this is the rules of the game, so we'll build our own little internal government here in our areas. And that's what's happened with all of the different immigrant populations who have come in, because they need protection from the oppressive American government, whether it be the locals or at the highest level. So, the Constitution, Bill of Rights has never been implemented in this country. Everybody's, the left and the right. I mean, Obama, I'm sorry. Obama was a Black version of Trump. For the left, now, Trump, one of the good things about Trump and why he's still popular is he actually got things done. I've been banging my head up against a wall with the legal community, women's rights, which is bullshit. They're the feminists. They just want power and glory for themselves. Human rights community, domestic violence. They're in, it's the same. Human rights and domestic violence community. There is just money making interest in industries and in bed with the feminists and minoritist. So that's why it's never gotten anywhere going through those. Amnesty International's Up a Creek Without a Paddle, Women's League Worldwide, Carrie Bettinger Lopez, a whole slew of people who all they want to do is produce reports and get on a freaking podium. And this is where you have the death of the liberal class. So, and this again goes back at least to the 80s, if not farther. I'd have to look at this. But I mean, yeah, it goes out a bit before the 80s because, you see this after the death of JFK and Bobby. And Ethel, I mean, the woman is just a social climbing, backstabbing little so-and-so. So what does she do? She starts an NGO because there's the Kennedy Foundation where the money of the Kennedy family is, and they distributed them. A mental retardation is their thing. And I'm sure that's to ease their conscience about what was done to Rosemary Kennedy, their sister. The lobotomy. See, this is the thing, either dope them up or lobotomize them. You can't do it actually with the operation. Let's just get them on all sorts of tranquilizers. Since actual lobotomies are no longer fashionable, they do it with drugs, antidepressants, everything. I mean, this country is so drug addicted, it's not even funny. And I make no difference between all of them. Pill popping, Xanax, Valium, I can't keep up with all of these drugs, or the illegal ones coming in, and the opioid epidemic that has just replaced the cocaine, which replaced the marijuana. It just keeps on getting more and more and more. You didn't have a lot of LSD in the 60s and 70s. But that was mainly the hippies. That was another thing in this after Camelot. They were saying that Joseph, Bobby, what was it? Hyannis Port terrorists. After their father's death, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought because I was thinking them poor things. Because see, this was a very, very actually shows how good these guys are. That's all they got involved in. Yeah, they were destroying property. Yeah, they smoked pot. They wreaked havoc. But if you really have any kind of empathy for these kids, Joseph, he's the eldest son, Kennedy's son, 17, he had to tell his siblings about their father's assassination because their mom was like, losing it. I mean, again, if it had been me and I had been the aunt, I would have been in there and be like, okay, kids, because I'm not going to put that on a 17-year-old kid. I have to try and explain to his siblings. I mean, that just really broke my heart. So if you, and for example, the thing that keeps on coming back to me was this whole thing about their little game of one of them would fall over and the other would hit the car, and they would tell the people, because of course the driver of the car thought that they had hit somebody, and there'd be this kid on the street in Blaine paralyzed, can you move your legs? No, oh my God, he's paralyzed. And then all of a sudden he rises from the dead like Jesus Christ. It's a miracle I can walk. I mean, yeah, at first, it's like, oh my God, these kids, and it's kind of a sick humor towards two deaths. They've got JFK and then Bobby. And it, it does get into a sick humor. However, if you look into the dynamics and you look into the psychology of this is not child psychology, adolescent psychology, if you will. This is not a rebellion. This is not a dysfunctional way for them to have dealt with that death or with those deaths. And I'm sure, Jackie, she flees the country. So, also you're, well, could I be a target? I mean, maybe they're not conscious of these questions coming into their heads, because boys that are not usually, but these, it was a really difficult situation for these kids, and that they didn't get in to worse stuff than they got into. It's a merit to their character, not to their environment. So, I mean, oh Lord, Ethel Kennedy's family, this is a perfect example of the old left feminist wants to have it all, literally, and castrates her sons in the process. Now, if she had been a dedicated mother, I think Joseph would have, been a force to contend with, within the political arena. Of course, that would have been on a hit list. Maybe he'll reflect and come back and say, I took a hiatus, but he's at the end of his life. That's one of the good things about getting old lady like me. You don't have that daredevil what that you did when you were in your teens and your 20s and even into your 30s of, yeah, death, it'll happen someday. So, you're like, well, what's 5 years or 10 years? I guess if I go out, I'm going to go out, whoever's going to take me out, whether it be God or somebody down here, at least I'm going to do it with a bang. At least I'm gonna kick some butts on my way out. Because my Lord, that woman, as I say, this, you know, it's not, this is the thing. You can't say, oh, it's this person, that person, this person. You walk into a kindergarten, you go, it's all of you. This wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for all of you. And the challenge now, of course, a lot of people are no longer around who won't make it to trial. But everybody else needs to be held to account. I mean, in the international development community, all you read about in their reports and their speeches is diligence, transparency, accountability. And even with them, you don't find it. So, history has shown time and time again that when the liberal class ceases to function, as happened in Tsarist Russia, Weimar Germany, and the former Yugoslavia, it opens a Pandora box of evils that infects the remnants of civil society. In this devastating critique, Pulitzer Prize winner, you know, everybody's an award. Chris Hedges chronicles the gradual corruption and death of the liberal class, which no longer provides an institutional check to mitigate corporate control of politics, education, labor, the arts, religious institutions, and financial institutions. I mean, as I say, well, this is just the synopsis, and it is a good critique of what he gets into. Although the liberal class was always comprised by its embrace of the power elite, as well as its deep hostility to American radicals, it nevertheless provided a mechanism to make incremental reform possible. But with the rise of the corporate state, it has been rendered impotent by its embrace of unfettered capitalism, the national security state, globalization, and staggering income inequalities. Consequently, the anger among the working and the middle class is, without a functioning liberal class, being expressed in ideologies that detest democratic institutions and the civilities of a liberal democracy. And I totally agree with him. I mean, the liberals, because as I say, I'm in Europe as much as the United States. So in the United States, it's the Democrats. In Europe, it's different left parties and factions. But they're all out to lunch. They're all just about themselves and their pocketbooks and grappling the ladder of success in their careers. And the women, you know, have become career women. I mean, my goodness, how I was denigrated by all the liberal career women I knew. I mean, but particularly, this was particularly in Bogota. I mean, nobody ever asked me why I was a stay-at-home mom or what I had done before I got married, or I mean, I think most people don't know really much about me or my past, you know, in the United States before I moved to Europe. I mean, it was never any secret. It's just I don't go around talking about myself. Also, if I ever told people about the crazy wacko world that I left in the United States, and my family, and every reason that we'd be there for a couple hours, we'd need a couple, at least a bottle of wine, if not two, to get through it all. And they'd be going, holy shit, lady, holy shit, holy shit. That doesn't happen in America the Great. I'm like, yes, it does. So people always assume. Yes, I even got into this. I'll have to pull it out. It was a, an article, if you will, that I did. It is in my Family Courts in Crisis newsletters. This is in the human rights ones. And it gets into biases. Now, in a social order, in order for people to know how to interact with others, let's say you're just in on a plaza, a square with commercial people that you have to buy things from, an environment where you don't know these people, the people that you're interacting with. Because of course, if you've grown up with them, you know their MO. But in dealing with outside your immediate family, you are going to have, you're going to be putting people in certain boxes. Simplest box. Okay, I'm a woman. That's a man. That's a woman. My first identity and bias. I'm not going to be afraid of the woman grabbing my ass. Okay, well, let's not get into lesbians. Grab my ass. The man, that's a potential risk or worse. So already I'm wary of the man, and that where I'm not with the woman. However, also my radar, and 90% of communication is nonverbal. So also my radar, and when you travel around the world and you're constantly moving from place to place, or go to a big city, this is another thing, urban areas, you become anonymous, and it's much easier to get away with crap because people don't know you beforehand, if you're a con artist or not. So that's why with globalization, it's easier for corruption to foment if there's no kind of oversight. But so, like, I'll go back to the example. So the man, afraid he's going to grab my ass, not the woman. Now, the woman, I know, see, on there, we're on a level playing field. Because she's going to treat me differently than the man that comes by her fruits, let's say it is. Because there's this whole charm, because believe me, if I go to the man who sells the fruits and vegetables, and I'd be nice to him, oh, hi, how you doing? He'll probably put an apple in there for me, So already there you have a different dynamics. The woman to woman, ooh, she's going like, I'm gonna go negotiate a good price with this other woman, It's gonna be very competitive. Whereas some man that she likes come in, she'll give him the second apple, the extra apple. So that's a very, very simplified example of that, how you're going to have biases. Then you start getting into different class systems. For example, a woman, like a working class woman who's selling her wares, I'm not going to be as wary of her in terms of, let's say she wants to sell me something, or like she wants to stab me in the back and destroy my reputation in the social order and in the community. She's chump change. She'll say whatever she wants. I mean, I don't care. You know, my reputation stands itself. Now you get into the upper crust social order, where these women's voices have more, how shall I say, weight. And unfortunately, that depends on what their husband's pocketbooks are, or what their pocketbooks are. And that's why they want to get their own pocketbook. And she starts spreading rumors. I mean, Anne Beatrix Keller with the IMF Family Association, and her backstabbing, conniving with the HR department is a perfect example. I still can't wait to get all of the testimonies and all the people who were involved in that. But then it happened again with the Institute for Capacity Development and Gina Paoni and Sharmini Curry and Adrian Thapa. Who else was involved in that? Kate Phillips. Same dynamics and same reason. And what makes me laugh about that is, see, the wives of the guys at the economists at the International Monetary Fund are just as stupid backstabbing bitches as the secretaries and the HR personnel and all of the women they got working in there. And they got all of the men castrated. I mean, that's and Governor Cuomo's attack, as is Prince Andrew's attack, is just another example of the feminists castrating men. And changing the rules of the game, that underage prostitutes are the same as pedophilia? No frickin' way. I mean, that is just crazy. And then with Cuomo, the norm that they want to set with this case is that it doesn't matter what a man's intentions are, even if they touch a woman on the shoulder. I mean, this is where you get into the Muslims, who you better never ever touch the woman. You can get your hand cut off as the wrong woman, because that's sexual harassment. You know, that's where this thing is. And it just matters if the woman was offended. I mean, you take this to the extreme within the criminal legal system, the penal code. Intent is irrelevant when you have a crime. People should really start to take a look. It was with Caroline Kennedy's, oh God, she daughter of her mother. Caroline Kennedy's book on the Bill of Rights, recognizing jurisprudence is essential. The feminists realize this. That is why they won't give me a voice. That is why I can find nobody to submit cases to the courts that challenge Gonzalez-Linehan versus USA. That was 2011. That's the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. The defense of the American government on that one was that they didn't have control over their courts at the local and state levels. And I told the women at the time when I heard that, I said, oh my Lord, you people. Now we can challenge them then, the American government, on its legitimacy under the US Constitution and Bill of Rights, because if they do not have control and purview over the local and state courts, then their raison d'etre ceases to exist. No, so what is Carrie Bettinger Lopez, who is the lead counsel on that? What does she do? She gets in bed with the Biden administration as advisor to the White House. What the Obama Biden, it was when he was vice president. Now she's all cozy again. Well, I'm going to see her in court. I told her that in 2015, October 2015. I was like, I'm done with you ladies. That was the cocktail party at they gave the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Yet another stupid documentary, and yeah, some glasses of wine and something to eat, and to show how wonderful the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence is and all the wonderful work they're doing. Well, we know that's a whole bunch of bullshit. And why this needs to go to the international courts under human rights violations. Now it's gotten, I mean, after 15 years, I've been on that gravy train for 15 years now. I've argued everything. I've set up the cases. James Ryan told me, he's the case in Japan. This implicates Caroline Kennedy. Apparently, I guess finally I'm on somebody's radar or at the State Department. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to light a match for them to move and actually do something. As is habitual custom, they're just going to sweep it all on the carpet and hope I disappear, ignore her till she goes away, and hope that, I don't know, my landlord gets me on the street, living on the street. Yeah, and then somebody can take me down easily, whatever. Or, you know, I mean, this is why Bobby Kennedy and JFK and Martin Luther King were assassinated. And as I say, it's as much, the Fourth Reichers are as much amongst the Democrats as they are amongst the Republicans. Because the Democrats, their ideology is you know, favoritism for their different group and nationalistic. You know, it's this national socialism. That's another thing. Capitalism does not exist in the United States, nor in Europe, nor anywhere in the world, because capitalism is based on free market trade. And I have demonstrated that time and time again, not only with my analysis of the financial markets and the banking system, but in trying to find funding for capital venture funding for global expats. I ran the gamut of everybody in the United States, Spain, and France. And when I do something, no stone is left unturned. I'm not like these little people in Washington who, oh, let me see what some other website has put out there. Oh, no. When I do something, I can assure you, No stone is unturned. Nothing is left to chance. Nothing is not looked at. And my files are all over the frickin' place. My, books are all over the frickin' place because everybody's trying to destroy me, so I have no money. I'm headed towards the streets. I mean, my poor books, I don't know what's going to happen to them. Hope God will send me a miracle, but soon. But I still will not sell my soul nor my body. As I say, as you get to the end of your life, well, I hope it's I'm headed towards 60. If I live a natural life, I guess could go on for quite a while, but whatever. As I say, it's not the longevity, it's what you do. And this is about my children, not about me. Because if I sold my soul now, there'd be no one to speak up against this, because I've knocked at every door and nobody's going to do it. And my 2 sons would end in a bloodbath. And if somebody ends in a bloodbath, I prefer it's me, not them. So, that's the bottom. That's my bottom line with everybody, and why, whatever pressures you put me under, I'm not going to shut up. Even I'm living on the streets, the libraries, I can get internet access there. So I've already thought my plans for that one. Believe me, I'm hoping it doesn't happen, but so I guess I wanted to spend too much time. I have to say I was getting real. I'm gonna have to watch a comedy or something tonight. I'm doing some drawing for Halloween, but yeah, as I say, everybody keeps on playing the ignore her till she goes away game, and I keep on saying, look, I will go away. However, you have to sit down. This might take several days, every time it takes. You have to sit down with me and explain to me where I'm wrong under legal principles, not your bullshit gobbledygook. Under legal principles, logic, and reason of a human being, not of some bitch in heat. Now, if anybody can do that, as I say, it'll take several days, you want to take several months, I got no problem. Then I will go away. And I will concede defeat. Like anybody who gets into a real fight. However, if I prove you're wrong, you're going to have to do the same. And see, that's why nobody will do it with me, because they know they'd lose. Anybody, pull them out of a hat. Go on. That is what I did with the Machiavellian games when I started all of this. Pull them out of a hat. Even anybody who's not in there that I don't know. Now you're going to have to give me a little time to research the person. But even with the Wikipedia profile, I can chew them out and spit them out. Chew them up and spit them out. So, you know, why is everybody afraid? Why won't anybody give me a voice? Okay, so this is, I'm just going to finish with this. How would a Patriot act? This is Glen Greenwald. Now, when I read his books, this was 2006, but you know, it was after that I bought it. I forget exactly when, of course, because yeah, it would have been definitely after 2010. I think when I got this. It's pretty easy because all I have to do is go to Amazon and look at my buy list and I can find out when I bought these things, because that's basically where I buy everything. So I believe that voting was not particularly important. Well, it starts, I never voted for George W. Bush or for any of his political opponents. So right away we established he's a Democrat. He's gay. But as I say, I contacted him to try, because he's a lawyer. I said, can you help submit? Oh, no. He was too busy starting with The Intercept at that time. Now I think he's stepped down, and now he's even complaining about all of these, I would call them second wave journalism. I don't know, because that started in 2010, the internet independent platforms, because mainstream media was just right, left, right, Fox News, left, CNN, MSNBC. So the independent outlets started, Intercept, there's a whole bunch of them. I contacted them all. I said, yeah, you're right. Mainstream media is just, you know, extremist right or left. I've been observing them since 2010. They've done the same crap. They just regurgitate the same alt-right or alt-left propaganda as mainstream media. And Glen Greenwald was recently complaining about it. He was part of the rise of all of that. I was like, here's all my research. Oh yeah, we're looking at that lady. I said, yeah. And since then, you've just been cashing in, just like mainstream media. All of them are going to have to, you know, I want to see them all in court. All. I believe that voting was not particularly important. Our country, it seemed to me, was essentially on the right track. Of course, he's gay. So grappling up the ladder of success. This case, rags to riches, it's the empowerment of the LGBT community. They're just the same. You know, it's black, brown, yellow, LGBT, minoritist. All they want is power for themselves. I mean, where have all of the LGBT people that I know been for the past 15 years? No, too busy cashing in. Whether Democrats or Republicans held the White House or the majorities in Congress made only the most marginal difference. I held views on some matters that could be defined as conservative, views on others that seemed liberal. Now, we'll have to get a listing of those. But I firmly believe that our democratic system of government was sufficiently insulated from any real abuse by our Constitution and by the checks and balances afforded by having these three separate but equal branches of government. As I explained, for the past 15 years, what I have concentrated on demonstrating: court corruption. We can go into penal code, civil code. I mean, mine falls into family court, but it's cross board. So that kicks in that the executive and legislative branch are supposed to oversee the judicial branch. And I have demonstrated with all of my letters, everything to the White House, State Department. This is part of the executive branch. That no, and then more lately, it's the head of the FBI, Christopher Wray, which I'm almost positive is under the executive rather than the judicial. Now, Attorney General Garland is judicial. And that's what I'm asking an investigation from the current administration, the Biden administration, into all of the domestic violence extremists that I have encountered in Washington in my past 15 years, many of them in federal agencies, the IMF, World Bank, the UN, everywhere in Washington. So that, I've gone to the executive there and the judicial. But with the court corruption, I'm going to the executive and the legislative. A bunch of idiots. Nobody's doing their jobs. It's like boing, 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 boing. Where do you want me to go next? I'll show you they're not doing their jobs. So, this is again one of the liberals, the death of the liberal class. He drank the Kool-Aid of the great American dream, just like Obama. And why? I mean, before the liberals, and even when I was young, it's like, we don't drink Kool-Aid. When I smoke our joints. We don't drink all your Kool-Aid. Telling us if we don't pray and go to church every day, our souls are going to be damned to hell. If we're homosexual, our souls are going to be damned to hell. If we smoke some pot, our souls are going to be damned to hell. Doesn't matter that Uncle Teddy has just gotten away with murder, Chappaquiddick. I mean, I could not believe Tierney, Ethel Kennedy, when her sons were like, well, caught for selling a couple of joints and we're gonna have to go to court, and everybody's covering up for Daddy Kennedy, and Ethel screams at, this has nothing to do with your see, back then we would be like, well, I find this pretty damn hypocritical crap that you're pulling. What we're doing is small potatoes. At least when I was young, I guess this was still some influence of the 60s and 70s of questioning authority, and not just rebelling, because that was a lot of what the 40s was about. Even the 30s and 40s, and even I saw that at Foxcroft. I saw, and this you see with the Kennedy kids, it was for attention. The kid acts up like that, it's because he's trying to get attention. It's it is a cry for help. And then I remember with some of the Foxcroft girls, I was like, oh, I got into mischief, but I don't, I didn't play the goody two shoes, but I didn't like, because I saw a lot of girls that they got into drugs, or they got into just delinquent behavior. But I was like, are you crazy? You're really calling attention to yourself. You're putting a target on your back. They want to start looking. And of course, when they started, the room searches for drugs or alcohol, those girls, they would search their rooms. It would take them as long to search their rooms as everybody else's room in the entire dorm. Yeah. I was like, don't call attention to your antics by authorities, because they'll notice. But as I realized, I think kind of even when I was that young, that a lot of it was just to call attention. Now I was at the other uggos and was going on like, oh, I just want to stay off the radar of my mom. Oh, just keep me out of her. That's a lost cause. I just need to do well enough in school and get out of here and make my own life. And I mean, that's why, yeah, I had this whole stuff about career. I mean, this came up with the Jackie O movie. I mean, her first job, was in photography, journalism in New York. She didn't make it. And they were like, you better go and get married. But she wanted to be a career woman. And this again, you see, this is around the time of Betty Friedan, the 60s, where, I don't want to be a wife. Now, she went to prep school, then she went to, an Ivy League, I forget where she went to college, but one of these, it's not Smith, but it's maybe it was Wellesley, same genre. But these colleges, which are the women's Ivy League, were started to prepare the ruling elite women to take their place. Oh, what did Joe? He said something about this. To take their place, to push men along. And really, the wife, it's just like any other partnership. And a lot of times a really good partnership, whether it be a business partnership or a marriage, is where one is more extrovert and kind of the joker, and then the other one is maybe more timid or diligent and behind the scenes person. I mean, that was kind of the dynamics with my marriage. Unfortunately, my ex never appreciated, the other side, the work that I was doing, which is typical and the root of a lot of this misogyny, that there's no recognition for that. No, Joe, this is Joe, the JFK's father. And he says women, the Kennedy women, know their place. And yeah, I mean, all of the Kennedy women, Rose, she put up with all of, that was just, came with the territory. With Ethel, same deal. With Jackie, in fact, Jackie was going to leave and she cut a financial deal. Okay, it was maybe not for cash. She wanted this house. She wanted to redecorate. But she was like, okay, you know, and this gets into part of this misogyny in the family courts, because all I've ever asked in you know, in my divorce was I wanted what was rightfully mine. Now I was sitting on a $1 billion a year company with global expats. Okay, it hadn't got up, but I can show it would have made that kind of money. So, for example, the assets that I'm reclaiming in Spain, and that I want a total investigation into that divorce, it's a matter of principle. I mean, it's pocket change. It'll probably cost me more. Well, it's already cost me everything that it's cost me personally. But in legal fees of what I'm going to recuperate, I mean, you know, I'll get it. Then I can reclaim damages of everybody involved. However, my point being, you know, because I know this is oh no, she's just a gold digger. She's just a gold digger. Believe me, when I get to the end of the line and I get everybody on court in this thing, it's like, wait a second, could you explain to me where my interest in money was ever? I mean, even one of the Jose Prado, when I went to see him, he said, "Oh, BBB banker, he's got to have a lot of money. He's got to." I was shocked. I mean, every single lawyer that I spoke with in Spain, by the end, I don't know, I have been through at least 15. I was like, all freaking crazy or what? And yeah, I found out, yes, they all are freaking crazy. However, the problem is since the beginning of the family courts, the feminists have been using it as a tool and a vehicle to let's just say disempower, marginalize, and defraud housewives and homemakers of their rightful assets. And that's been going on for a very, very, very long time. And it's been institutionalized and with legislation, with jurisprudence, and with habitual custom. So it's just increased the misogyny. So, I mean, Glen Greenwald is in for a rude awakening. All that has changed completely. Over the past 5 years, a creeping extremism has taken hold of our federal government, and it is threatening to radically alter our system of government and who we are as a nation. This extremism is neither conservative nor liberal in nature, but is instead driven by theories of unlimited presidential power that are wholly alien and anti-ethical to the core political values that have governed this country since its founding. Well, see, that's where Glen, his premise is faulty. And the fact that the seizure of ever-expanding presidential power is largely justified through endless rank fear-mongering, fear of terrorists specifically, means that not only our system of government is radically changing, but so too are our national character, our national identity, and what it means to be American. And he's right. But ever-expanding presidential power had been going on for a long time. And if you want to get into the executive in England and in Europe, we're looking at even a larger historical time frame. So, Glen Greenwald, like everybody else, has got this tunnel vision, in the box thinking with his LGBT stuff, and how, since he made it as an LGBT, America is the America the Great now. Same with Obama, same with Michelle. Our country is at a profound crossroads. We must decide whether we want to adhere to the values and principles that have made our country free, strong, and great for the 217 years since our Constitution was ratified, or whether we will relinquish those values and fundamentally change who we are, all in the name of seeking protection from terrorism. Once again, he needs to take a look in the mirror, but I agree that that's where, we need to take a good hard look in the mirror, himself included. I never imagined that such a thing could happen in modern America, that a president would claim the right to order American citizens in prison with no charges and without the right to a trial. In China, the former Soviet Union, Iran, and countless other countries, the government can literally abduct its citizens and imprison them without a trial. But that cannot not happen in the United States. At least it never could before. I mean, what planet does this guy live on? All the time. I mean, Maria Jose Carrascosa, when he published this, Maria Jose Carrascosa, she Spanish national, she was sitting in New Jersey jail, being held on contempt of court for 8 years. She's a lawyer. Every single year, she would file a habeas corpus with the courts. The Spanish consulate knew about it. The New Jersey courts didn't have any standing in there. Spanish consulate hung her out to dry. I don't know how that, she finally got let out, and she was going to sue the ass off of New Jersey, and I'm not sure how that all ended up. Now she's out there championing herself as a human rights lawyer. Well, if she was really a human rights lawyer, why haven't she submitted? Because she saw, I showed her on my table, it's on the other side of that. Hold on, let me put it down. I showed her this table that I've compiled against my lawyers in Spain. All the different, this gets into, I got the Spanish Constitution, international conventions, the penal code, civil code. There's a whole slew. These assholes are going to jail for the rest of their lives. Then it goes into equality law, gender violence. There's a judicial power law, statutes for lawyers, the deal. But see, everybody in the United States thinks that by getting the Equal Rights Amendment, it's a magic wand. Spain has the utopian Spanish Constitution, legal code, and the Equality Act. Doesn't do me any good. I've argued it under all of that. Blow everything out of the water with this. That's why nobody will assist me. So, but Maria Jose, she saw that, she goes, who put that together for you? I said, I put it together myself. Silence. And I've never heard from her since. Of course, why? Because she was like, oh, holy shit. Then this lady is going to take all the limelight. If we go to the courts with this, I would take the limelight. I would become a star instead of her. Lori you know, she can sue me if she wants for, but give me another reason why she's never called me back. Cindy Dumas, or Dumas. She's the other person who's working on human rights and at the international level. She's the one who prepared all of the things for UN Women. So UN Women is aware. I submitted my own thing, and you know, I'm like, bravo, Cindy, to put this together. This was really, really good. But now let's unite and let's really go after the UN. You know, I'm up the ass of the IMF and the World Bank. We can, you know, kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Let's go. No. This is why women have traditionally been kept out of positions of power. They don't work together. They're squabbling. Everybody wants to be queen for a day. And men, sure, you get men like that. But the bulk of men don't like that bullshit. I mean, come on, look at it. They play team sports. And it's all about winning. But as a team. And so there's something to be said about, and this comes partially with their testosterone, their positions as, you know, they can't have babies physically. Yet they can produce them, and you do want to encourage them that any babies and any offspring you produce, you want to protect them, you want to take care of them. Well, their role is a little bit different than the mothers. Caveman time was going on and hunting and making sure that nobody came and, you know, a lion came and ate everybody. But so the dynamics change a little bit throughout history, but the fundamental animal instinct and function of men and women and their biological functions, their functions and social orders has not changed since time began. Nor has women's henpegging, which I think we can trace to Adam and Eve. And see, you know, the women, their how shall I say, their violence, their contribution, if you will, to the cycle of violence is the prodding of the men, who then get pissed off, and then he gets, you know, it really is a question of the chicken and the egg. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Well, no, it keeps on going, keep on going, and keep on going. We can go back to Adam and Eve, but, you know, chicken and egg story again. Where did Adam and Eve come from? So he mentioned this Padilla case, and I want to bring this up because I developed an intense interest in the Padilla case. It represented a direct challenge to my foundational political views that we can tolerate all sorts of political disputes on a range of issues, but we cannot tolerate attacks by the government on our constitutional framework and guaranteed liberties. Now, with the Padilla case, which let me just read from The U versus Commonwealth of Kentucky, 559 U.S. 356, 2010, is a case in which the U.S. Supreme Court decided that criminal defense attorneys must advise non-citizen clients about the deportation risk of a guilty plea. The case extended the Supreme Court's prior decision on criminal defendants' Sixth Amendment right to counsel to immigration consequences. Now, I'm not sure if that's reference to, but this brings up, I think this might be in reference to the Avena case, which is a case that I cite in you know, with my own case on Spain. This is, so the Avena case, the case concerning Avena and other Mexican nationals, Mexico versus USA, more commonly the Avena case. Was a case heard before the International Court of Justice. In its judgment of 31 March 2004, the court found that the U.S. had breached its obligation under the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations in not allowing legal representation from the Mexican consulate to meet with Mexican citizens arrested and imprisoned for crimes in the United States. Now, during my divorce, and this is a common tactic to try and get the opposing spouse arrested on criminal charges, because then that throws it that, you know, an unfit parent, they've been arrested. So, and particularly my ex was going to the courts. I mean, this I loved, particularly with Reina Sofia, the Queen of Spain, having gone to one of the type of boarding schools that I went to. So the Spanish courts contend that my attendance, my going to boarding school at 14, not 12, or maybe I would say 13 when I started, 13, 14. Cobham Hall, this is where Jenny Churchill went to school. This Earl Bathurst, good friend of Prince Charles, was Lady Hetty Bathurst. Hetty Bathurst was a roommate of mine, very, very sweet girl. Well, woman. And then Foxcroft. Now, Cornelia Guest was at Foxcroft. She was in my class. Yeah, the Foxcroft school, I mean, you know, I don't know, Vanderbilt's, Mellons, robber baron families all over the frickin' place, but these are excluding boarding schools. However, for the Spanish courts of Móstoles, this was proof that I had been a drug addict and delinquent, juvenile delinquent, since the time I was 12 years old, because I had been sent off to reform boarding schools. So, you know, I want explanation from the judge in my divorce of precisely how these are, that this is proof of these schools, because then, well, doesn't that mean Reina Sofia as well as a juvenile delinquent drug addict? I'm not sure where his daughters went to school. This throws all the lycée français all over the place in the cesspool. So, you know, the courts need to start explaining some of their decisions under facts, evidence, laws, and human rights standards. So anyway, this was, I already gone in, you know, it was during the divorce. I had forgotten a friend of ours, you know, it's like, I don't know, I think it's a 5-minute drive from my house. It like the snail's pace. What's the slowest you can go? I forget now. Is it 15 kilometers an hour or something? In the neighborhood. So a birthday party. So I had forgotten I was preparing for the next day to have the Easter egg hunt at my house and have everybody over for lunch that I would do every year. So this is the alcoholic, drug addict woman. My friend calls me up at 10:30 because you have to understand, those is Spain. I mean, a birthday party is starting around 10 o'clock. And in the summer, she's like, did you forget about the birthday party? And I'm pretty sure, I'll have to get this testimonies, but I'm pretty sure it was actually my ex-husband who realized I hadn't shown up and I had probably forgotten. And so she better call me to tell me. So I said, oh gosh, I forgot. I got the quiche in the oven. I'll get those finished, change, and I'll be over there in about 15 minutes or so. So I go over, have a couple of glasses of wine, stay, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half, possibly 2. Then I go home. Well, when I get home, plus my ex sees me leaving, he shoots out of the house, out. He's driving. So he's going racing through the neighborhood. He had to go at least 50, 60 kilometers an hour over the speed limit. And so I come, yeah, I was over the legal limit, but I was going, like a few blocks in a residential neighborhood at like 15 kilometers an hour. I am not, this puts it on the table. Are you people doing this to harass citizens, or are you doing it in order to prevent, people of being a danger on the road? My case shows, no, you're doing it to harass citizens. So this is, the Spanish police are going to have to demonstrate that they're not doing it to harass citizens, because clearly, and also to assist abusive husbands who want to kill their wives lose custody, because that was the objective. And my ex-husband, obviously, I was like, wait a second, you guys, you're going to take away my kids for this? This just proves that my husband has the police force, the local police force, and the entire courthouse of Móstoles in his pocket. And this needs to be moved out of this courthouse immediately. It needs to be brought to the judge that he has a cousin working in here. It needs to be brought to the judge, an investigation into the 4 police officers that arrested me, instead of giving cause for my children to be taken away. And I still want an investigation for that. So when they arrested me and they told me, because they said, blow into our machine, I said, no, because I knew very well it was trying to get a positive reading on a DWI and then submit it to the courts that this was proof that I was an alcoholic, which is not proof whatsoever. But I knew that was coming. So I said, no, I'm not blowing into your machine. I said, I want a court-appointed lawyer. And I want, this time it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, and I want you to call of course I'm not, I'm not drunk. I have total faculty. I know exactly what's going on here. And I said, and I want also a representative of the American consulate and French consulate here right now, because I had been going to them since October 2007 This was April 2008. And show them, I'm serious. Shit's going down here. This is total bullshit. And say, and Ingrid and Astrid Betancourt, I had already contacted them by then, well, it was through Astrid Betancourt, but this throws Daniel Parfait into it as well in the cover up, and Magalon Orléange and Philippe Orléange of the Ministre des Affaires étrangères, which is the French State Department, are involved in all this. When we see with the Epstein case, and you know, when everything came out with Virginia Giuffre about all of the cover-up that had been involved. My case is the same. But the feminists don't want this crap exposed because it's against their financial and political interests. Oh Lord, by this time, if they ever gave me a voice, their goose would be cooked, and they know it. And unfortunately, all the men, you know, they all been castrated, and all they care about is getting laid. I mean, my God, one of the reasons why I left Washington in the 80s, when I was still fresh meat and my womb was working, and I did want a husband and a family, and you know, and was looking for a potential father for my children, and decent husband who had a brain and a little bit of integrity, nowhere to be found. I did date a couple of decent guys, I think. I was so disgusted by the time they came around. I was like, y'all are a bunch of asshole pricks. And all of those guys have just grown up. Well, they've gotten old, just like me. They haven't grown up. They still all have a goddamn zipper problem. And everybody's following in their footsteps. All of the young, you know, that's why the couch casting culture is so prevalent. And I'm sorry, you know, with Megyn Kelly, I mean, I've been following her podcast. I mean, another one who, I mean, she makes some good points, but again, dumb blonde out there who doesn't do her homework and just wants to be on a podium and on TV. I mean, she even said she blew the guy because she wanted to be on TV. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm ready to go and live out on the street in a tent because I'm not going to blow anybody, and I'm not going to sleep with them, and I'm not going to do anything else. Kiss their ass or anything else. So where American women have become total whores, whether it be in the workplaces, at the top levels of power, or in their marriages, or any place else. I mean, that's why so many marriages fail in the United States. Everybody's looking for a good catch. And they're just, you know, angling to get a good catch and cash in. All right, my marriage was my husband with me, but but it's as prevalent with the women as it is with the men. I mean, my Lord, when I got a divorce, my mom played that. My girl, that was with Victor Riarte. That was one of President Aznar's ministers. I dated him for a week or so before I left Spain. See, he was victim of some witch hunt. I mean, I was barely getting out of Spain alive. I was a mess emotionally. God, I was so overweight, I couldn't even believe anybody would look at me. So I mean, okay, it was nice to have some male attention, but he had been, I think he had gone through a divorce, I don't know, some witch hunt as well, and had totally left him penniless. I mean, I'm fighting back. I'm like, screw you people, you're not going to do this and get away with it. Now, that was Aznar's minister. You know, I'm not a dumb bimbo who doesn't even know how to hold a minimum wage job. And this dialogue from, I get it from all sides, everywhere. People I live with here, my siblings, my mother, my family, you know, everybody I've known. And it's like, wait a second, you people. I mean, do you think when I put a wedding ring on my finger, they somehow lobotomized me? Whatever. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, you know what, everybody, when the whole thing collapses, everybody get their day in court, and I am going to be delighted to find the rationale that everybody that I know is going to pull out. I try not to think about it and hypothesize, because I know so many damn people in this cesspool. Yeah, I go freaking crazy just thinking about it. I'm like, well, whatever, you can explain yourself. You cannot say you didn't know what was going on, because I know you know, because I told you. I know my mother, one of the few things that I agreed with my mother was, you know, they'd say, oh, Mom, we didn't hear you. She said, no, you did not listen. Nobody knows how to listen. I mean, it's really a pandemic. They don't know how to listen, and they don't know how to think. And the worsts are the ones with the PhDs and the MBAs. Which, I mean, you know, it's like, I think lack of cognitive abilities these days is a prerequisite for getting an MBA or a PhD. Only thing I can figure out. So anyway, yeah. I was watching this miniseries today, and I was just like, yeah, look at the role models we have been producing in this country. You know, Europe, that's another can of worms. It's kind of like when Joe and his brothers, or who was it? What's it? Anyway, the guys who got, because there was the two Bobbies. I guess it was just the two Bobbies. I'm not sure. It was just the two Bobbies, which is Sergeant Schreiber's. They have a son, Bobby, and Ethel's son, Bobby, which is the second when they were arrested for selling some joints, and saying that Uncle Ted, you know, I was getting away with a lot. I had to crack up at that. I keep on cracking up at that one because I'm like, yes, it does. It has everything to do here. And in fact, it set a really, really, really a bad example for the young men in the family. But you know, this whole thing of, well, that's totally different. I love it when they pull that one out, and I'm like, well, wait a second, you're being hypocritical here. Over there, it's not the same. It's not the same. Like, yeah, it is. Could you explain to me where the difference is? It's just not the same. It's not the same. Oh, I know that one. I know that one like the back of my hand. This is why I keep on saying to people, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to sit here and play the 5-year-old game of, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And you going, no, it's not. No, it's not. I'm going to argue. Stop screaming at me. Tell me why it's not the same. And explain to me why it's not the same. And if you can't do that, then we can go to the courts. And when you're under oath and obligated under the law to explain to me why it's not the same, we can do that as well. See how there is a legal solution here. It's just there's no good faith anywhere you turn. Anyway, okay, so that's it for today. Have a nice day or a nice evening. Bye-bye.